Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach.
All right, guys, welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. It's Laura today, and this morning's podcast is going to be awesome because I am doing it as much for me as I am doing it for all of you listening. And so I'm going to give you some context of why I chose it. But before I begin, the name of this podcast is How to Close Without Feeling Salesy. So even that word close used to give me feelings. And we are growing here at the Academy. We are growing in the Successful Nurse Coaches. All signs point to the nurse coach movement is going to grow exponentially. And that's really, really, really exciting. Like that makes me really, really happy. But Shelby and I are going to have to do something for the first time, something we've never done. And that is to hire and train nurse coaches or nurses who know about our program to help us sell it. And when you have to hire and train someone to sell for you, guess what? You get to look at your own processes so much more deeply. And it's just, I think, going to make us such better business coaches as well, because we're forced to take a deeper dive. You know, I feel like when you're brand new, the fear of sales is likely the biggest fear. It was for me. We talk about it so much. And the truth is that sales is a skill set. It can be learned and you can grow in it through repetition. And when we have some kind of structure to follow, to practice, it makes it so much easier. And also you can be terrible at sales, be an extraordinary coach and not make any money. You could have the best value program in the country, exquisite instructors. I'm talking about us. You could have everything going for you. And if the person speaking to the lead is not skilled in closing and in sales, it's a high likelihood that there's a lot of people who won't sign up, which means there's a high likelihood that people who can and should be nurse coaches won't be because of that particular touch point and that role. And so us figuring out how we want to do this without it being scripted or weird. And, you know, we hear this all the time. We'll do advisor calls with students. And so I'm going to use Nurse Life Coach Academy as a case study because we are selling to cold people. These aren't warm people. This is actually harder than selling to your warm network, which is usually what you start doing when you first open your business. And we hear all the time that students will go to other programs and they'll have a sales call or they'll go to their sales thing and they feel like they're being sold to, and people don't like that. And I know I never wanted to make somebody feel that way. Like if I was going to sell, there was zero chance I wanted to make people feel pressured or that I was going to manipulate them or that I was just trying to get money. Like the thought of that, to be honest, if I didn't figure out how to do it without making people feel that way, I just wouldn't have had a business. There's no way I would have overcome that. I just couldn't stomach it. And you shouldn't either because it's not great. So today we're going to talk about how to close without feeling salesy. And we're going to use Alex Hormozi's closer method as just a different approach. Thankfully, what's really cool about it is that it has all the same components that we teach in the preceptorship that we've been teaching for years, but it's an acronym and it's slightly different. And it's the one that we're currently using now. And so I kind of drilled it down to teach you guys on this podcast. So this podcast is going to be teaching. You're going to want to take notes. I'm going to make sure that we have the transcript, something easy for you to grab, to use, to integrate, and to practice with, because my goal is that after listening to this podcast, you're going to be better at sales. And if you're better at sales, guess what that means to the world? More people will have a nurse coach. More people will choose faith and themselves over fear. More people will believe in themselves. More people will hit their goals, realize their full potential, and not only grow for themselves, but for their friends and their family, their coworkers, their hospitals, their organizations, their churches, their kids, parents, friends will have a better version of them if they hire you. And so I really want to teach you that. All right. So this closer method, let me kind of give you what it is. It is the acronym CLOSER, CLOSER. And what is closing? Closing means that somebody pays you. So many times that I've sold, I haven't closed, right? So I did a great nurse coaching session. I knew I could help them. They were an ideal client. And when it got to the very end and I said my price, I was really soft and I let them hanging and I didn't follow up. And I chalked it up to, oh, they're just not ready. No, they were ready. I just didn't know how to close, or I was afraid to close. And closing could also be looked at as commitment. Closing is eliciting commitment. I'm going to give you a story about my son. My son really wants to start working or have a part-time business. He's 11. He's adorable. And so yesterday he was making alpaca dryer balls all day long. And he's going to go door to door and he wants to sell our alpaca dryer balls, which is really cool. And he was talking about, he's like, I really like going door to door, mom, because we have a farm stand. And I was like, hey, buddy, why don't you just put them out at the farm stand? And he goes, well, I really like going door to door because I want to ask people if they want to buy them and I want them to tell me yes or no. So I can just move on and go to the next house. And I was like, dude, you're going to be an entrepreneur. You're making your mommy proud. Closing is eliciting a decision. Closing is closing the conversation about the possibility of working with you. Closing is really important. And so the name of this method is closer. And so if you hate selling, it's because you think that it's convincing and it really isn't. It's increasing certainty and reducing risk. It's increasing certainty in your client and reducing this risk that they feel by going all in on themselves, by doing the work, by spending the money, by spending the time, by having the conversation with their partner. We are increasing certainty, reducing risk. Human beings love certainty, and yet nothing is certain, really. It's kind of BS. The only thing certain is that one day we will die. That is certain. Maybe the other certainty is we're going to pay taxes. I think there's some kind of story around that. But everything's really uncertain. We love certainty because it reduces risk. It makes us feel safe. And I can tell you right now, when somebody's never invested in themselves, investing in themselves in any way, it feels risky for lots of reasons. What if they invest and they don't get their money's worth? What if they invest and they can't do it? What if they invest and they succeed? What will that mean? So when people hire us for transformation, we're saying, hey, pay us money and spend time with us so that you change your future, which is uncertain. And that creates a lot of feelings. This is why people don't like change. Closing in sales is increasing certainty and decreasing perceived risk. And it is our ethical responsibility. It is part of being a nurse life coach. You will need to learn how to close. I have to learn how to close. I have to teach my sales team how to close. I have to evaluate sales calls and see what could we have done better. And you're walking this fine line, right? And you want to be the best that you can be. If you are the best that you can be at this particular skill, you will make more impact in the world. This is the last door between somebody not working with you and working with you. And this door has to be well made. It has to be structured. It has to be created. And you have to be really certain inside of this door. Okay. So I'm going to give you different scripts. I'm going to give you all sorts of things to actually use today. But I also want to go over what this structure is. So let me just say what they are. So C stands for clarify. You are going to clarify where they are and what the problem is or what the goal is. Like you want to get really clear. And this is best done in powerful conversation too. Powerful conversation. We teach you how to do this, but this is when you get through powerful conversation 2 and you're getting close to the point where it's going to turn into a proposal. Or this is going to come after you say, all right, we are almost done with our session today, but I still think I can help you. Can I ask your permission here? Do you want to know what it could look like to work with me professionally? Or do you want to just create a plan for you to do this on your own? Because it'll change the way I use this last 15 minutes of the call. And 80% of the time people are curious. 90% of the time people are curious and they're going to say yes. So we always seek permission because we don't want to bait and switch. And permission is the difference between bait and switch. Okay. So this is when you get to that permission part, when you're going to go into the proposal. And I would give yourself a minimum of 15 minutes for this. If you can give yourself a little bit more, it's better. Okay. So we're going to clarify what is the thing. Second, we're going to label. We are going to reflect back to the client exactly what the thing is, what the problem is, what the vision is. This is creating the gap. The gap is between clarity about where they are and labeling where they are and where they want to be. O is for overview with proof. Overview is going to be exactly what you would do with them for that paid container. So if it's a 3-month coaching container, the overview is going to be exactly what you plan on doing. Okay. And the is you're going to sell the outcome. You're going to sell the outcome, not your sessions, not your logistics. We're going to sell them the outcome of the work that you will do together over the next 3 months. E is explaining terms, and risk reversal. R is reinforce and close. All right. So I'm going to go through these again. C is clarify. L, you're going to label. O, the overview with proof. S, sell the outcome. E, explain terms and risk reversal. And R is reinforce and close. So we're going to go over what each one of those steps mean and how I would use it if I think the case study that I want to use today is somebody, I'm going to say it's somebody who is struggling with finances and doesn't like their career and just feels stuck. That's going to be our hypothetical client today. All right. So you've done powerful conversation 1. You've done half of powerful conversation 2. You're going to go to that transition. And so you're going to ask something like, all right, we are getting close to the end of the session, but after speaking with you last session and today, I think I can help you. Do you want to know what it would look like to work together professionally? Or would you prefer we just come up with a plan for you to do it on your own after this session today? No, Laura. Yeah. How much does it cost to work with you? This has been so helpful. Great. Let's start from the beginning. So explain to me why this is a priority to you right now. First, why is this important? If nothing changes in the next 6 to 12 months, what's the cost emotionally, financially? Let's just get really clear on we're here. We've defined exactly what's going on, but I want to hear it in your voice. If nothing changes in 6 to 12 months, what is the cost? So you ask, why is this a priority now? Assessing for timing. If nothing changes in the next 6 to 12 months, what is the cost? You're clarifying the pain. You are clarifying what they want to change. Okay. Then you're going to mirror back to them. So I said, okay, so this is not just about your wanting to spend more time with your kids. This isn't just about wanting to be able to provide more for them financially. This is about you feeling disconnected from your purpose and what you believe you're on earth to do. So you're going to mirror back to them exactly what you hear. There is something so powerful about somebody mirroring back to you exactly how you feel, and they see you. So clarify is the first step to make sure that you know what in the heck you're doing. This isn't just willy-nilly hours with you because it feels nice. We want to get really clear on if they were going to spend money, what are they buying? What are they investing in? And this first step is clarity. Second is label. So summarize it in one sentence. So I would say something like, would you say this is more of a purpose problem, or do you just want more money and time? Which one's more important? I say, okay, so it is really what I hear you say. It's really important to you that if you're going to spend time away from your family and you're going to be doing your work in the world, that when you're every hour that you're doing that work, you want to feel like you're making a difference, like you're doing what you're supposed to do. For me, as your potential life coach, I can sense this is a purpose thing. Okay. Maybe leverage some silence. Let them feel the gravity of that. This is not convincing. This is mirroring reality. This is the proverbial come to Jesus moment. You are defining the thing. And next, you're going to go into your overview. And so in your overview, you could also use a different structure that we like, which is MESS. This is going to be mindset, energy, strategy. Sue, cut this out. Hold on. Okay. So now inside of the O for overview, this is where you can use one of our other structures from our course, which is the acronym MESS. So stands for mindset. E stands for energy. S stands for skill set. and the other S stands for strategy. So in this overview, in the O in the closer framework, this is exactly how you get people results. And this works for anybody. Even if you're unclear exactly what's going to happen, there's a process that you trust, and it's this MESS process. So this for mindset. We will be working on your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs of what you think is possible, some of the stories that you've made, examining some of the stories from your childhood and from the roles that you've assumed. And some of these like limiting beliefs that you've had that we've talked about in the last few sessions. So we'll definitely work on your mindset. Second, we're going to work on your energy because transformation takes energy. And I know you're already overwhelmed. So the first thing we're going to do while working together is clear out things that drain you of energy and call in things that give you energy. So we're going to do an energy audit to make sure that you have the bandwidth and the physical energy and mental and emotional energy to do this successfully. Third, we're going to talk about your skill set. So you mentioned a couple skills that you feel like you need. And one of them is that you want to take this writing class. So part of what we'd be working on is deciding on a writing program or a class, some of the free ones online, and getting that skill. So at the end of our 3 months together, you would have that skill under your belt, which is the only skill standing in the way of you and the job that you're looking for. Does that sound correct? Okay. And lastly, we're going to strategize exactly how to make all this happen together each week. So my program is 3 months long. We would meet 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And on that week off, you'd have specific homework to do. So we will go from A to Z, exactly getting you where you want to go. All right, let's go through it again. Overview is the overview and proof. And so the overview you're going to take them through is mindset, energy, skill set, and strategy. Now, here's the thing. You can pre-prepare this based on your first session with them. So you can have some of these things loosely written and you can look at them. In fact, it's really powerful when a coach looks at their notes because it means that they've been studying you. So have some notes on this client of what you think, some mindset, energy, skill set, and strategy. So even if you're a brand new coach, you can have a framework and a structure, and you're going to figure it out between session to session. And if you're in our containers, you have a professional multi-six-figure nurse coach that's going to help you every step of the way. So they're not only hiring you, they're hiring you and your support team. So believe me, don't worry about delivery. We've got you there. Okay. And if you've been trained at Nurse Life Coach Academy, you've got it. I know you've got it, even if you feel like you don't got it. Okay. Okay. This is going to be, well, let's first go back to proof. Proof can be by telling a quick client story that's relevant. Now, this is more difficult when you're new. This is why having your testimonials in one sheet and knowing all the people that you've worked with and all the problems that you've helped solve, having it someplace that you can reflect on is really important. And we make you do this in the academy. So we want you to be able to pull from a testimonial. So you might be in that O part of the program or the proposal. And you might say, so first we're going to work on your mindset. Next, we're going to work on your energy, skill set, and strategy. This is exactly what I did with one of my other clients who was working on XYZ. And in 3 months, they went from this particular circumstance to this particular circumstance. So this process works and it's a lot of fun to do together. That could be your proof, dropping in some kind of a story like that. If you missed that, that's okay. S is going to be selling the outcome. Okay. So what is the outcome that they want? Well, hopefully you have some in that clarify first step. You have some idea of where you're going. This is where the vision comes in. And so what you might say is, all right, if we worked together for 3 months and it went perfectly, better than you could have imagined, what would your life look and feel like? And I want you to give me as much detail as possible here. So get them to tell you. And from a quantum standpoint, you are laying the path from this reality to that reality through words and intention. And this is proven by science. It's important. Let them tell you and then say, okay, our desired outcome, our intention together, working as a team, is that you land your dream job writing, that you are working less hours, then you're more available to your family. You have more energy overall because you're in your area of your zone of genius, and you're working on a career that has endless possibilities. So you're full of energy. You're getting better and better at writing every day. You're earning 20% more, and we're going to create that all in 3 months together. That's exciting. That's worth $1,200. That's worth $1,800. That's worth $10,000. Do you know what's not worth $1,200? Well, it would be selling. Yeah. So if you want to work with me, we're going to meet 3 weeks on, 1 week off. It's going to be 60 minutes and you can email me in between. Like I'm available and yeah, it's going to be great. And I have payment plans and that's nobody wants to spend $1,200 on that. And that's what we do. That's what I did. It's what you do. It's just what we do. It's this when we don't have sales training, we end up in some version of that. What our clients are paying us for is holding the intention of a vision. Now, we can't guarantee results because we are not the persons doing the work. What we can guarantee is the best shot. Okay, let me say that again. We cannot guarantee outcomes because we are not walking around inside of our client's body, making every micro decision and taking every action. What we can guarantee is to create the best environment and circumstances for them to be successful. If we are going to relate this to medicine, this is the difference of, let me think of something like a good way to look at this. Okay. So let's say somebody has severe autoimmune disorder and they decide that they're going to spend all their time and energy reading books on trying to figure out what to do and then just trying stuff and having no labs, no feedback loops, not really knowing if anything's working, just in the blind, just giving it a go. Versus working week to week with someone who's done this, who understands the process, who can offer labs or check-in points or assessments to see how it's going, to offer real feedback. That would be the difference, is which circumstance would you have the better chances of healing? The one with a provider, the one with a guide, the one with somebody doing assessments, or on your own. And it's always with somebody. There are so many studies that show, I think some of these studies I should probably pull up and I'll do it on another podcast that show, Shelby's talked about this. She spent $5,000 to lose 25 pounds. I spent $5,000 to lose 25 pounds. My people on my team have spent $5,000 to lose 25, 40, 50 pounds. Not because we don't know how to coach, not because we don't understand what we have to do to get there to lose weight, but because it was a higher probability of getting that desired outcome by spending that money. And this is from professional coaches. Never underestimate the value of your presence in assisting somebody towards their intention. And so you get to sell the outcome. There is no guarantees. The guarantee is that it's the best environment and potential for them to be successful. And let's go back here to when do we actually talk about logistics? Okay. So E is explain terms and risk reversal. So we want to do the entire process first before we talk about the logistics. The logistics come at process part E. Explain the terms and risk reversal. All right. So the way that we're going to achieve this vision, the best way, this is what I would recommend. I recommend this. We're going to meet 10 times in the next 3 months. You're going to have homework assignments. You're going to be connected with me and you're going to invest $1,800. And we're going to be silent and let them be with that. Now, given what you shared, is this a yes? Do you hear my voice? I'm calling them forward into. I'm calling them out of fear and forward into. I'm calling them forward into a bigger version of themselves. I'm calling them into something that will serve them. I am not calling money into my bank account. I'm not closing to pad my bank account. That is not where my brain is. That's not where my mind is. That is not where I am in this process. I am lost completely and wrapped up, excited about their intention and their destination. And I am calling them into that destination. I'm calling them into that reality. And I am asking them because I care about them and I want to serve them to say yes to that. I want them to say yes to that. I am not pretending like I don't want them to say yes. I want them to say yes. I'm excited. I want them to say yes. I know when I have said yes to myself, my life just gets bigger and better. I believe in coaching. I've drank the Kool-Aid and all of that's present. And I want them to say yes. I am not meek about it. I am not afraid of manipulating them. I don't care what they think because I'm clean. I know what my vision is for them. I know it's possible for them. I can see it. I can touch it. I can taste it. And I want to walk with them right into it. And I believe with 100% of all my being that it is possible. And it's not possible because I'm magical. It's possible because they're magical. It's possible because the container is magical. It's possible because I trust that process. Okay. So given what you've shared, is this a yes? That is important. You were asking them to say yes or no. Now, this is where you're going to have we're working inside of the R, the reinforce and close. Okay. So given what you've shared, is this a yes? Okay. You've explained the terms. You've talked about risk reversal. Risk reversal would be something like um, some kind of a guarantee or a refund. And we don't teach this in like a $1,200 or $1,800 one-to-one 3-month thing. This is more appropriate in like different offers. So I'm going to leave that risk reversal off the table for this particular case study. But when you reinforce and close, this is where you want 5 minutes for this. This is where resistance will come up. So their ego. So for most people, their ego is when I say, given what you've shared, is this a yes? Most human beings' egos are going to freak out. So it's not going to be like, for most people, it's not a kumbaya moment. Sometimes it is. It's great when it is. Oftentimes it's tension. It's their egos going, God, can you really afford this? Can you really do this? You're probably going to fail. Who do you think you are? You're already so overwhelmed, Laura. Like, how could you add more to your plate? Or, oh, if you tell your husband, he's going to freak out. This is the moment where those thoughts come. Okay. So it's either most of their resistance is going to be around timing, money. They need to get permission from a decision maker, a co-decision maker. It's primarily those three things. And we have a navigating resistance roadmap. I'll link this in this podcast episode. If you're one of our clients, you have this. So we have like extensive scripts for this. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But what most new nurse coaches feel when the resistance comes up is that something's gone wrong. And this is where you stop advocating. This is where you rock back on your heels and you're like, well, I'm always here in any time. And you completely abandon the client. And so we want to have some idea of what we would say if it's a timing thing, what we would say if it's a money thing, what we would say if it's a permission thing. Because here's the thing. If they are a maybe, they're 80%, 90% going to be a no. If they are no, then that clarity around where their life is currently, in 6 months, it's a 95% chance their life will be exactly the same. So when we're fighting here, when we are navigating resistance, we are navigating resistance knowing, even if our client doesn't know that, as the professional coach, we know that. We know that it's highly unlikely that anything will be much different 6 months from now if they don't work with us. If they don't, and it's not just because we're magical. It's because when you invest money and time and make a commitment, you've already done like so much of the heavy lifting. You've made a decision. We're asking them to make a decision. And so if we back down from them making this decision, it's likely going to postpone or never happen. Okay. So for timing, what changes in 30 days? Like if someone says, well, I think maybe next month. I was like, awesome. I see this happen all the time. It's just what we do. We postpone. Tell me more of in 30 days, what will be different? Well, I'm just so overwhelmed and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Can I coach you on this? Seek permission. When I hear my clients say this is why I include that energy step, what we talked about earlier, because I know for anything to happen, we have to clear some space. And I find that if we can spend our first session or two on this, that we can clear so much space. And I worry in the next 30 days that won't be done, that you're not going to be able to do that, or that things won't change and you'll be just overwhelmed 30 days from now. Let's say it's finances. Okay. Well, yeah, I just don't have the budget for that right now. Things will be better in 90 days. Hey, I hear you. It is, I've never met anybody that said, hey, Laura, I have a coaching budget that all saved up. I could coach you starting next week and we could figure out the money. Are you 100% in? Yeah, totally. Awesome. Cool. What can you pay? What could be a down payment that you could pay today to get started? And then we can create a payment plan for you. And oftentimes people will backpedal because they're actually afraid. And so I know this feels advanced and I know this can feel really murky. And I'm just explaining the process so that you have something to grow into. But if you can't be comfortable talking about money it'll be very difficult to be a professional coach because it costs money to invest in ourselves. And it's just something we have to get really comfortable talking about. And here's the other thing, you guys, if you're listening to this is why I feel like Shelby and I did well fast, is because we invested in ourselves. Like we doubled down on ourselves and we had good outcomes. So that gave us like a positive reinforcement with this process that we believe that because it happened to us and we've seen it with other people, that if we invest in ourselves, good things happen. And we are the purveyor of good things in lives. And so it becomes really easy for me to, especially with Nurse Life Coach Academy students, it's like, hey, this is, this particular investment, like you're going to make it back. This is like a temporary investment in like building a different life. And this is the same for any type of coaching. Hey, this is a temporary investment for 3 months, but I can guarantee you that the person that you become on the other side will have more money because of it. So it's a temporary investment. And I know it can be scary, but I've walked a lot of people through this and I believe in you. Now, that's really easy to do when you believe. And it's really easy to do when you're in service mindset. It's really easy to do when you're selling clean. I've also had people sell to me not clean. And this part felt terrible. I'll never forget this. I'm going to give you a horror story. After I worked with my first business coach, I had been without a coach for a little bit and I knew it was time. And my business, I was making 6 figures. And so I think this is before Shelby and I, we linked up. I'm trying to think. I get timelines fuzzy, but I had seen a coach online and I reached out to her and it was with her team and I know sales. So I kind of knew what they were doing. Well, first, the salesperson, and this is, as I'm saying this is my fear of hiring salespeople when it's not us, is I could tell the salesperson's goal was to sell me. I just knew that. They just weren't, they didn't believe in like the bigger vision of their coach's program. Like they weren't touching that. I couldn't feel the bigger vision by interacting with them. All I could feel was their desire to have me pay. And because they weren't clean, the whole transaction felt shitty. And so I've also been sold to where it was extremely clean and it was somebody selling in other programs. This is where intention matters. It's like the place that you're in. So I think this is where the having a personal coach at this stage, it's so important to like really create your own mindset around being clean in how you serve and how you sell. Because I know that if I can teach you guys how to sell clean, that it's a skill that will pay you for the rest of your life. But that's a downstream effect of being a fierce advocate for people. And to be a fierce advocate for people, you've got to ask them for the yes. And you've got to challenge the no, as long as you believe that you can help them and that they can help themselves. And so this is where the 3 beliefs come into. You have to believe in the modality of coaching. You have to believe that the service that you provide is valuable, not like necessarily that you are like, don't sell yourself, but sell the thing, the container of coaching. You've got to believe in the container of coaching. Second, you have to believe that the client can make changes. So if you're dealing with a client who's like full of doubt, don't know if they can do anything, like if you haven't seen any real promise, or if you're concerned that they're not in the right place, the right mindset, they're in pre-contemplation, they're not a good fit for coaching, if those are thoughts that you're having, this isn't going to feel right. And so I don't know that we propose or we try to close everybody. We close everybody that we truly believe we think we can help. But here's the slippery part, is that our own ego will start eroding on all those beliefs if we're not constantly working on them. So you've got to believe in the client's ability to change. You've got to believe in human beings' ability to change. And you've got to believe that you have to hang out with people who believe that too. This is where if you're a professional coach and you are selling transformation and you are on an island and you're all alone trying to DIY this with nobody in your life who believes in transformation, we are the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. You are going to struggle. Get in community. Free community, paid community, get in community, get surrounded by people regularly who believe in transformation. It's required for your job. And then third is you got to believe in your ability, the coach, to hold the space, not do it, to not do the heavy lifting, but to hold the space for this transformation to occur. You've got to believe in yourself to be the cocoon, to help create the cocoon, to create the conditions of the cocoon. You got to have those 3 beliefs. You have to, or it's never going to feel clean, right? So this stage R in the closer process, this reinforce and close. You can only reinforce and close if you're clean. If these three beliefs are present and if you truly are in that service mindset, you can do this step so well. If you don't have that, you're going to skip this step or not going to do it. I promise you, you'll just skip it. The first time they have resistance, you'll be like, well, I'm always here. Do you want me to follow up with you in like 2 months? And then you'll come talk to me and Shelby and you'd be like, oh, they just weren't ready for coaching. B, but maybe you weren't clean and you couldn't close. You couldn't reinforce. You couldn't take a stand. You couldn't ask for the yes or the no. You couldn't be with that tension because of your mindset. And this is where coaching is invaluable. And the last part of this process is getting payment. Okay. I feel like in sales, they call it shitting the bed, but we're not going to call it that. I feel like I've crapped the bed so many times. And it's so silly. And because I was so uncomfortable talking about money because I had such a bad financial past. Like when I started my business, I just had so many things coming up for me and against me. My dad doesn't like rich people. Like I just had so many barriers in my mind. And so oftentimes I would go through this whole process and then I would be like, all right, I'm going to email you a contract. They'd be in my office. I have a Stripe. I had an in-person practice. I had a Stripe, like I had a thing where they could swipe their credit card, but that made me sweaty to pull out. It felt weird. And so I'm like, awesome. Like as soon as you get home, I'm going to send you this contract. And so I would crap the bed in getting payment. And so I think that we have to get comfortable asking for payment because, and this is the best format of this that I was on the receiving end of is when I hired Steve Partisan and he said to me, as soon as I receive your commitment check, then we'll schedule a call and we'll get you the next steps. So he called my payment the commitment. The commitment is the payment. They are not committed until they make a payment. They are not a client until they make a payment. And we always say, don't celebrate until you get a payment. And so you want to get a payment or a plan to get a payment in a quick way. We want a link. We want it to be easy. For Nurse Life Coach Academy, we text it and we email it. We do both. But we want to make it easy and we want to follow up because the payment is the actual commitment. There is no commitment until the payment happens. And so I think this last part is like being comfortable with letting them pay. That is the commitment. That is the step. That is the beginning of this next part of their journey. This is the beginning of their own transformation. It's the beginning of a new version of them that invests in themselves. And it's an honor and a privilege to get to do it and to get to hold it. And it's part of our job as a professional life coach. Part of our job as a professional life coach is to get to the point where we can go through the closer process and we feel really good about it and we feel clean about it and we don't feel weird about it. And we don't feel weird about asking for commitment checks or asking for commitment payments. And we don't feel weird about advocating in the expected resistance that their ego is going to put up. And we do all of this because our intentions are pure and clean. And I know you listening have that because I've been spending time with you all for years. Because I have it, because Shelby has it, because you can feel it with us. We model how it can feel for you. And if you've had negative experiences being sold to, let that just be that's the opposite of what you want to do. And it doesn't ever have to be like that or feel like that. I promise you. In our programs, we have a proposal evaluation workshop. So it's really a great idea to record these. Of course, you want to do it with permission if you're on Zoom. If you're in person, you can use Zoom audio to take audio notes. You can see transcripts, but you want to evaluate yourself in this process. We're doing that. It's really, really, really helpful because a lot of times we don't know what we're doing, like we can't see it. And so with permission, of course, from your client, we can watch or listen to proposals and learn from them. And so over the years, I think we have like 75 recorded proposals of different nurse coaches, and they'll give us their favorite and the one that they want feedback on. And so we've had really great examples and really shaky examples. And I'm just amazed on how much I've learned just by listening to those. And so we offer that in our training. We offer evaluating your proposals and letting you watch other people's proposals. And there's some framework of yours, like Closer is a framework. We also have our frameworks in the course. There's your own framework that it's not going to be a script, but there's this process that's your own, that you take people through, that you get better at. And here's the thing. I am so grateful for every coach that closed me. Like, thank you. I am so grateful to the first certification company that followed up with me 10 times trying to get me to buy their certification when they were brand new. Thank you. I appreciate that. That made a difference in my life. And thank God they weren't afraid. And that's who you get to be in your client's story. You get to be a choice point, and that close, that decision, that commitment payment, that is the choice. That is the point. And you get to be a part of the whole thing. That's part of their old life dying and a new life beginning. I don't care what you're coaching around. Something is ending and dying and something is beginning. And you are the doula. You are the Sherpa. You are with them so that it can happen. That is worth fighting for. It's worth fighting their own ego for, but only if your intentions are clean. Okay. So I'm going to go back and just sum this up, and then we'll make sure we have great notes for this podcast. Okay. C is for clarify. What made this a priority today? If nothing changes in 6 to 12 months, what's the cost? L, labeling the thing, labeling the problem, labeling exactly where they are and what's happening so that you know and they know and you both know exactly what you'd be working on. This is painting that gap. Overview. Here's the path. We're going to do M for mindset, E for energy, S for skill set, and S for strategy. And you're going to sell the outcome. The outcome at the end of our 3 months, the end of our 6 months. How do you want it to look? How would it feel if you were successful? What do your friends and family say about you? E, you're going to explain the terms, the price, risk reversal, R, reinforce and close. Reinforce and close. Given what you've shared, is this a yes? Making space to coach them with permission around the predictable resistance that will come up from their ego because they're about to invest and make a change. And part of themselves will have to die for a new part to be born. The ego doesn't like that. And after E is R is the reinforce and close and taking payment, making it easy for them to pay you, making the commitment be the payment, not pretending that there's a commitment if there's no payment, holding the tension all the way through to the payment. Don't be like Laura and send the invoice because your palms get sweaty to bring out your little Stripe point of sale device. All right. I hope this was incredibly helpful. It's helped me, even just doing this podcast with you guys and thinking about our own process and how I want my potential students to feel and nurses that don't know me. And if they're going to be working with one of our advisors through the process, like how do I want my leads to feel? And I never want them to feel sold to. And I also want them to say yes, because I believe in the product and I believe in the vision. And so hopefully our process helps you with your process. And of course, if you want help with this, you don't have to do it alone. We've got your back, and just reach out to us. Have a wonderful rest of your day and see you soon.